that standard that was set by Meisner and Strasberg for acting classes, where you defer to this guru, this emotional wizard, to sort of reveal yourself and trust the environment, that they can tell if you're fucking around and you're not willing to take the risks, and for whatever reason that you can't, it's not their goddamn responsibility.
Well, I hear what you're saying. That's also correct. You're both right. I'm the diplomat.
The truth of the matter is that if you access the emotions necessary, that doesn't in and of itself guarantee that you're going to be a good actor.
No.
And there's some other combination of things, but in order to get to that place to do the work, if you've got what it takes, is sort of necessary within this structure.
Yeah.
And you believe in this structure.
Yeah.
Well, what is this? What is the Meisner? What is the method?
Well,
I've talked to some people about it, and I joke about it, that, when I knew people that were just taking classes and not necessarily in the school, that I think was when Meisner had already passed, it became available for sort of weekend warriors and whatnot to just take a class, but not be immersed in the method, that the Meisner method was the repetition thing.
It's sometimes misunderstood as only that.
Well, it gets hacked like that. That's my experience of it. That's like right. Green. Yeah, but that's not it. I think it's misunderstood as that it's, here's in a nutshell. I can't possibly give it any justice, but let me see if I can be clear in a very pithy second. First of all, acting, I think it's instinctive. He called it living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. Okay.
Like Harold Klerman's book, Lies Like Truth. It really only means just pretend, but pretend good.
Yeah.
That's really what you're doing. So how do you do that? He had a foundational program that lasted a couple of years, the first part of which, was set up so that his signature, distinguishing feature that he really contributed, this improvisation, came at the beginning. And so it was the beginning of this pretending good business, living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, whereby
I like that.
Yeah, whereby you had to start the improvisation became finally an improvised exercise where you're under imaginary circumstances and you have an authentic living experience where you're present and open. And you live out this made up situation. This business of working off the other person and your connection with the other person that is part of this and part of this technology of this, is like skating is to hockey. You can't play the hockey game until you know how to skate. So until you know how to go moment to moment, so to speak, where you really train yourself, to be, attentive, available, and to the other guy mostly, but everything that's going on around you.
That's the tricky part.
That's what you're training. There's a technology for that, and he kind of developed this thing that begins with this repetition. So that's the first part of it. This communication under imaginary circumstances. The second part, that's the incoming, where you listen. You can listen so attentively that you can repeat exactly what the other guy said. As a matter of fact, you can communicate to him what you got besides what he said. Here's the way you said it. And all the nuances thereof.
Right.
And then before you go on, you're part of the tennis, when the ball is on your side of the court, you say, here's how you put the ball to me. Here's what I just got from you. And here's how I send it back, because this is how I feel about, I'm going to now communicate to you in word or deed how I feel about what you've just said or how you've just said it.
Right.
In which demands that you open yourself up. So it causes you to be at once present and train yourself to be present and open and connect to your unique channel of communicativeness.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start. You're listening and you're answering. And that starts to solve the problem of when you got a script. Hey, let's pretend that I've never heard this before. And I'm going to take it in and I'm going to let your pinch produce an ouch in me that now generates what I have to do back to you. That's kind of how life goes. And so it sort of simulates that under the imaginary circumstances. So it's very good in our world. it teaches you how to improvise, which is very useful in all kind of jobs that you may get. But it also gives you technology that supplies the underpinnings of Wes Anderson script or Shakespeare or Chekhov or David Mamet, where you got to say the words, but have an alive experience and play the game of acting, which is, this is like real life. I'm going to listen to you and be available to you, and even if nothing different happens, and give it back to you, pinching and ouching, and then play the whole game and make a pretend scene out of it. Well, you get the idea?
I do, and it makes sense to me, and I appreciate all of that, and I've always felt that those things were important, to be emotionally present and open and listening and engaged with the other person. Now, I'm no trained actor, but I've done some acting lately, and I've gotten better at it. And the trick is that you can do all those things, but eventually you have to be comfortable.
Yes.
So, like, being present, is good, but, to appreciate the space that you're in. And then, cause like the thing that always drops off for me when you tell me that is like, all right, you're pretending, but okay, so you're in a house and it's 1920. Yes. And, how much do you take in? How do you register? What technology do you use, outside of being present for the pinching and ouching to place yourself in an environment, or say when you're on a film to return back after a 3-day, a scene on an airplane to the emotions that are necessary to play the rest of the scene before you get on the airplane. Like what are the tools that you use for being in the actual environment that you're pretending to be in, other than the emotional connection and the pinching and ouching, and also returning back to the emotional state necessary to pick up where you left off in film or television work?
Well, you're talking about many different things. First of all, the second year so-called of the Meisner technique, that first, the improvisation and some improvisatory ways of handling early scene work is part of the first year. The second work is basically, in my view, kind of what Stella Adler was doing, which is understand the material. Now, let's understand the play and do the show, and make it interesting and make it good. Which involves, fully realizing the situation.
This is the desert.
Where if this is 1920, really she would talk about, understanding the music that you might be listening to then, really all of that, doing whatever you have to do.
Suggestions, right.
Yeah, if you're in another time.
But I guess only you know whether you really did that or not. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you're pretending well enough.
Yeah, there's no formula to it. There's no formula to it. And the other piece of the other thing you referred to, this requires what some people call emotional preparation, where if you're, where you got to pick up from a scene where you just found out some horrible news or some wonderful news, and you just got to start right there.
Yeah,
you have to possibly generate in yourself.
Take the second,
pick it up there. Yeah. I've it's a very individual thing.
Yeah,
and after experimenting for several decades with that, one can overemphasize preparation and trying to generate things. The more I do it, I'm still conscientious and prepare in many ways, but you can, the given circumstances, like Stanislavski said, are kind of all you need, at least for me at this point. I don't like to go astray too much and bring music in with me and read a book and go astray and try to, and spend all morning trying to get myself in a condition. I'm more self-trustful at this point.
Right.
And that can be overemphasized, as that improvisation can be overemphasized, whereby some first year Meisner students can go, that's it, this feels so good, this is all I want to do. And they'll never figure out how to learn lines and make them sound like improvisation, or do the show good and understand the author's intent.
Right. A lot of it, let's be honest, is either you got it or you don't.
Well, there's that too. And and it means, you might you either have a flair for it or not.
Yeah. And
part of that flair is, do you have an appetite? Do you really want to do it?
Right.
Are you crazy about doing it? And that's part of it.
So it seems to me, in looking at, the bulk of work, which is a lot, you've done a lot of work, but you certainly paid your fucking dues. In terms of, like, you're in New York, you're doing Meisner, you get the play, you get the Nashville movie, you obviously got an agent, but you're doing whatever you can to get on camera.
Yeah. I did. Well, it kind of happened luckily. I mean, I got the first thing and the second thing, and one thing led to another.
But Death Wish was small.
It was very small, but it was the first audition I ever went on. And that led to something else, and that led to something else. And I was lucky because I didn't know what I was doing. Meisner says it takes 20 years to have real work to even call yourself an actor, and then a lifelong experience. I'm a late bloomer, and I'm a humble student, and I kind of follow that credo, and I'm still learning, and I got lucky that I got chances to learn on the job, and lucky that it was just little.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't, I'm still learning now. I'll tell you, on the set last year, I found out a lot of things that have transformed my work. Yep.
Like what?
Well, this business about overemphasizing preparation. I was still a little addicted to, a year ago, overemphasizing for myself, working too hard on getting myself into a condition and, or distract myself or free myself so that when I had the moment of the scene, I was a little surprised or a little bit fresh or a little bit something that I thought, or a little bit alive, more alive than I thought I should be. Yeah. And I would drink a little bit of coffee too, which is not the worst thing in the world, but I've given that all up. In the last year, no coffee. This is me, no coffee. And I don't drink it now. And I was not drinking too much of it, but it's like even the smallest kind of extra stimulation or performance enhancement, I kind of don't want to do now.
Okay.
It's just better for me. I kind of trust more than ever my own bones and blood and the scene
and
my ability to solve the scene in the moment. I still prepare from the day I get the part and try to figure out what to do to make it good on the day. But when I get there, I don't want any books in my pocket or other conversation that I'm going to try to free myself or unnecessary et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think it's great. I think it seems that maybe Meisner was right. It takes at least 20 years, if not
for
more.
Me, if he set me up like that, I dig it. I'm glad. Hey, if I'd figured all this out in the first couple of years, I think I'd be bored or doing something else. I'm still excited because I want another opportunity now to try out my new, better self.
Yeah. That comfort in your own skin, is beautiful for you as an artist, but also you always had your own time zone. That you're one of those guys that, you just by your nature, you have a way of phrasing, you have a way of being, you have a way of taking information. And even when you walked into my house, you took things in and I'm like, he's being so Jeff Goldblum, that it's purely you. And I think as an artist of any kind, you want to arrive there. You want to be comfortable enough to go, I know who I am.
Yeah, well, Meisner said, don't copy anybody. Just figure out how you can do it uniquely. He said that, so I think I took that to heart. I've tried to pursue that. And I think I was lucky somehow. And again, I got a toehold in something that was nourishing and kind of followed it.
That's the other thing you hear a lot about, choices, making choices. It seems like that Meisner was not too hung up on that.
Well, that's right. I think his, like I say, distinguishing contribution was that first year that sort of opens you up. It was a very good method of really
and then you do what you're going to do.
And then his second year, it's less distinctive, I think. It's more like what everybody else is trying to do, make it good. Yeah. Still Adler, make good choices and figure out how to do it, make it interesting. And so, he would kind of like, hey, you figure it out, do it and do it a lot and you'll figure out how to make it good. I like the other part. If you try to get through, a play, really your whole adult career without doing that second part, it's like, as somebody said, trying to cross the Atlantic Ocean with a mixmaster strapped to your patoot,
But I think that second part is also, it's on the actor to integrate how they're going to bolster their personal craft.